Welcome back to Margin. Today I wanted to talk about the impossible EV push. So in the midst of surging gas prices, it can be tempting to look at alternative options. Now, the immediate response may be to go out and try to pick up an electric car of some kind or another. And while that may be a great solution for some, let me explain why it's currently not a sustainable answer for all. So let me preface this with the fact that I have owned personally 5 Tesla vehicles that are fully electric vehicles up to this point. So I'm not sitting here recommending a slowed adoption of these vehicles, but instead to provide a realistic perspective on how feasible the EV solution is as of current. So it seems like every day a new EV car is birthed, even outside of the strictly EV car companies like Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid. So let's take a look at a couple examples from the most prolific EV company, otherwise known as Tesla Motors. So the starting price of an entry-level Tesla Model 3 after a 6-month waiting list is currently $44,990. Now, that is the entry-level vehicle, but you can also climb up to a Model S, a fully equipped Model S Plaid for $150,990. Now, neither includes the $1,200 destination charge for new cars or delivery depending upon your specific location. So according to Kelley Blue Book, in an article last week, the average new car cost as of February is $46,085, which places the Model 3 right in line with the average price. So whether you typically buy used or new, this may be a bit surprising, or may not be actually surprising because of how much vehicles have raised in price and the average price to obtain them in recent years. So the parent company of Kelley Blue Book stated that prices remain historically high. February's average is $4,719 higher than prices from just 1 year before, at an increase of 11.4%. Now, they go on to say that consumers are paying near top dollar for new vehicles as prices remain high and incentives fall to a record low, said Michelle Krebs, executive analyst for Cox Automotive. Now, she went on to say that with prices for oil and gas, along with commodities like metals used to build vehicles, soaring due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, automakers may be compelled to try to offset their increasing costs by raising vehicle prices. Now, the Ukraine situation is causing additional disruption to the automotive supply chain, which makes the likelihood of growing inventory, which remains stuck at low levels, less of a sure thing. So this doesn't even touch on the insane used car market, which is artificially elevated more than 34% year over year, according to Car Gurus. Now, the market is operating far from its norm with these inflated prices, material shortages, and limited availability. In addition to this, if the change in upfront cost wasn't enough, wasn't a surge in and of itself, add to that the surging gas prices. Now, we talked a little bit about this already, but the surging gas prices being a combination of lessened demand over the last couple of years with people being quarantined and having stay-at-home orders, followed by a resurgence of demand from people wanting to get out and travel, as well as turn back to going into the office and returning to their commutes. So add to the demand the issues around motivating people to get back to work, as well as reduction in US-based operations, and you have a perfect storm when adding in the sanctions placed on Russia last week. So according to a Yahoo article, one effect is already clear. Markets have anticipated possible energy sanctions on Russia by discounting Russian crude. And then beyond that, refiners who aren't obligated by firm legal contracts to take delivery of it are shunning spot or non-contract cargoes exiting Russian ports. So one trade publication estimates that this has resulted in roughly 1.6 million barrels per day of Russian oil failing to find buyers. The result is a large-scale disruption in global oil supplies that is already boosting prices, even though the physical oil is still available in principle. So according to an MSN article, Russia is the world's third largest producer of liquid fuels, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, which is why Ukraine's president, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but Zelensky is his last name, has tried to rally support for an international boycott. So while all NATO countries may want to heed that call to show support, it's more feasible for countries like the US and UK to actually go for it. They get about 3 to 8% of their crude oil imports from Russia, respectively. Germany and the Netherlands, on the other hand, rely on Russia for more than 30% of theirs. Conversely, the US is not a critical trade partner for Russia. Only 1% of its crude oil is directed to the US, while more than half goes to Europe and Eurasia. Now, all of the reports I've read to this point show less than 10% of the US crude oil being sourced from Russia. But nonetheless, according to a Market Watch interview, Americans have never seen gas prices this high, nor have we seen the pace of increases so fast and furious, said Patrick Dehan, Gas Buddy's head of petroleum analysis. So Dehan further stated in an MSN article, "We're also entering the spring and summer driving season when gas prices typically increase because of higher demand. So we are expecting that this is going to be an expensive summer at the pump for consumers." Dehan continued to say that he predicted that the national average could reach $4.50 per gallon. And he stated that, "I'm betting on this being a longer period of higher prices." So one of the difficult aspects to answer in relieving the upward pressure of pricing on fuel is the long-standing battle of whether or not to frack in the US. Now, Charlie Munger, who is Warren Buffett's right hand, basically his long-standing business partner, takes the stance that we need to preserve the US and drill offshore to preserve our liquid gold. On the other hand, how do you balance the immediate needs with the long-term sustainability and preservation of those resources? So in a tweet last week, Elon Musk, who is the founder of Tesla Motors, said that he hated to say it, but we need to increase oil and gas output immediately. He tweeted this Friday. He said that extraordinary times demand extraordinary measures. Now, in a tweet by President Biden, on the other hand, he stated that loosening environmental regulations won't lower prices, but transforming our economy to run on electric vehicles powered by clean energy will mean that no one will have to worry about gas prices. It will mean that tyrants like Putin won't be able to use fossil fuels as a weapon. So Elon's tweet, on one hand, is looking at the very real concerns of massive gains in the inflation of prices as diesel prices surge. So prices like the food that hits your table and how much it costs to actually get it transported from the farms to the table. This addressing at least a short-term tapering of fuel costs, while President Biden, on the other hand, tweeted about a long-term agenda to provide relief that gives no hope for the current challenges consumers are actually facing. So the massive push for green energy needs to be seen for what it is, which is a long-term implementation strategy allowing for auto manufacturers to make the transition to hit targeted EPA ratings for their vehicles while the infrastructure is developed and deployed that could actually make it more sustainable for us to have EVs widespread on the road. So simply stating that EVs for all is the answer to increasing transportation costs is very short-sighted. So according to Pew Research, solar and wind power use has grown at a rapid rate over the past decade or so, but as of just the last 3 or 4 years, those sources accounted for less than 4% of all the energy used in the US. So as far back as we have data, most of the energy used in the US has come from coal, oil, and natural gas. In the last 3 or 4 years, though, those fossil fuels fed about 80% of the nation's energy demand, down slightly from 84% a decade earlier. So all this to be said, if more than 3/4 of the US energy demand is attributed to coal, oil, and natural gas, we have a long way to go in order to get to an adoption level that would sustain current demand. If accomplished, if we go through this process, and this is accomplished through solar and wind and other energies, we need to find a solution that builds up these energies while maintaining our current sources of energy until we can actually transition. I see this as pulling the boat up to the dock first, before just shutting down, cutting off, or burning the ship at sea, before we even have a sustainable solution. And I just believe that that is pure idiocracy. It's ridiculous to be shutting down and be getting rid of our energy sources when we don't have a viable solution ready to go. So currently, cities across America are not prepared for mass adoption of EVs. We are already dealing with rolling blackouts in certain cities and certain states with the current aging grids that are less and less supported, being that the Fed is pushing funding to the advancement of technologies like wind and solar and away from those power plants that are deemed less clean. So everyone running out to buy an EV and plugging that EV into the grid will only further exacerbate and expose the issues at hand. Now, I believe that you can care about the environment and still understand the process it takes to transition properly to more sustainable fuels. But like most things in life that are worth doing, it will take time, and it will also take bipartisan support in order to get there. Now, why I bring this up today is it's so easy to feel like fixing the issue is going out and buying an EV and buying an electric vehicle, which on average will typically cost you, at least initially, a lot more than a combustible engine. And so that being said, I would just encourage you to count the cost, to actually look at what the cost benefit analysis is, weigh out your options, and really see if the EV adoption for you and your family or you and your spouse is actually something that is sustainable for you, is something that you can do right now with your finances, or is it going to just stretch you even though you're going to be saving at the pump? So really thinking through this and looking at your finances individually, outside of and separated from the decisions globally and as a country when it comes to our adoption of electric vehicles. If this information is helpful to you, explore the Margin membership, where me and my team will help you take the information you're learning and apply it to your life and your finances. I've built an interactive course that allows me and my team to come alongside people like you to help you revamp your finances and build margin into your life. Click the link in the description below for more information.